A Nation back with Tim Kubiak, who is a well-known player in the SMB Nation community from his time in the security realm. So welcome back, Tim. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. Good to be with you again.
Yeah. We've been able to kind of let our audience know a little bit more about you on the entrepreneur side, your security side, your startup side. You kind of, and most importantly, the Bow Ties in Business podcast side.
Yeah.
So no, I love that format, and it looks like you're really consistent. I'm on the page over here, and that's the thing about these podcasts and content is consistency. Nothing worse than seeing like a 7-month gap in an interview, right? Because it's like, well, where were you? So you know how it goes. Well, hey, let's just jump right into it. I really like the one you did early March 2021 on leveraging other people's audiences, because a lot of my conversations in the different entities I'm involved in is about ecosystem. That's sort of the new buzzword. Used to call it community. So Deidre Shen, you say she's Australian out of New York, and she talked about leveraging other people's audiences. So what's the story? What's going on there?
So she's got a really fascinating backstory, and it's not in the industry that we're all in, but it actually translates really well. So she started in brick and mortar in a local market. She came out of finance, hated her career, and opened a sweet shop in Sydney and said, we've got these amazing molten chocolate things. We've nailed it. Everybody's just going to show up. And her first lesson was, no matter how good your stuff is, even locally, you need to draw people in. So her first experience leveraging other people's audience really was learning to use influencers, before we called them that, local food bloggers and whatnot, to spread the word for it, because she didn't have a major advertising budget. And from there, now she's got 5 brick and mortars, a couple of burger joints, and then she runs a series of 7-figure online businesses as well.
Man. Yeah, that's really something, because it's interesting, the evolution as business does, right? That our terminology changes, our business models change, and now we're firmly embracing ecosystems, influencers, and so on. Now, maybe to some extent we always did it, but we use different names, right? I mean, it was a combination of leveraging your friend's network. Back in the old days, it was in person. Today, there's the perception. You can do it on LinkedIn. That has its own challenges, because sometimes you're not really a friend with a connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I've actually been running for about 60 days now an experiment on using Facebook. And it's been fascinating, because you talk about not being somebody's friend. Your LinkedIn, my LinkedIn, our networks are pretty healthy, but we know most of the people in it. So we have real credibility and real authority there. So I decided to do the same thing on Facebook and say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to look for people that look like the people I do business with and are my friends on LinkedIn. And I'm going to go add them on Facebook. And it was literally a foreign experiment. I have not been as uncomfortable in anything I've done professionally in probably 20 years.
Oh, well, talk to me. Yeah, did you get some flamers back from people saying, who are you? Don't bug me?
So you absolutely got the old flame war stuff, right? But the other thing is you don't have the same filters, if you will. If we go on LinkedIn, we look and say, this person's friends with Harry, by the way, they know, Leaf, and they know 12 other people I know, and they were at this company that I traded with 20 years ago. All right, we got something there. I go into a SaaS founder on Facebook, and there's no connection. They have no idea that I have clients in the AI ML space, that I'm working with 2 SaaS companies, and I'm really just looking for additional perspective of what's going on in the space. They're like, what are you trying to sell me? Dude, I want to see what you're posting.
Yeah.
Totally different approach.
Yeah, I agree. I spend a fair amount of time growing my connections in LinkedIn and rejecting connections. There's a downside to LinkedIn, the 5 or so invites a day. Harry, are you interested in offshore software developers? Well, no, that's not what SMB Nation does, right? I don't even think you read my profile. you're just kind of spamming me with some kind of LinkedIn tool. And and then when it is close to the match, more often than not, the immediate reply is they want to sell me something. So maybe they are in the zone of what I do, but I always want to stop selling. Okay, stop selling me. I stop it. And then with LinkedIn, I'm trying to keep that more personal. You'll see my bike rides. You'll see my this, my that. With Facebook, it is where I'm going with that. And then with LinkedIn, more professional. And quite frankly, I get annoyed when people kind of cross over. They put up the political posts, the religious posts, the this, the that over on LinkedIn. And I'm like, that's noise, man. I don't know how you feel, but I think
I think it's a
different.
pandemic anomaly because I never saw it before a year ago, to be honest, right? I loved LinkedIn because it was pure business, and you might be in, blockchain or some fringe technology, but it was still the business.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of gone to personal. And finally, the other thing, this ties into leveraging other people's audiences, you got to be careful. And I'm guilty as charged of tagging people to drive traffic. I've tagged you on a couple of things to drive traffic.
That's right.
But you got to be careful. In my startup in the Canatech area, I think I've made a little spreadsheet of friends to the family. I think it's over 100 names, so I'm pretty quickly tagged when I put my ecosystem chart up or something. You don't want to just tag to tag.
Yeah.
And that worked, Tim, where only one person untagged themselves out of 100 the last time I did the ecosystem chart. But I'm very thoughtful about it, and a lot of people aren't. I'm tagged in things, and I mean this respectfully, but I don't know, a women in technology council meeting. I mean, God bless them. I get it. I support it, but it's a little far afield from what I do to be tagged, right? I'm happy to respectfully read it and like it, but that's a tag that's just trying to drive traffic to my audience.
Yeah,
and that's a true story. I'm not picking on women in technology, but that's a true story.
Yeah.
So,
I'm taking a different approach. If you notice, like if you're in an episode of something I'm doing or it's a shared effort thing, I'll certainly tag, and I might even tag some ecosystem in. But I actually am spending a lot more time when I see something cool going, hey, and you did it actually with a friend of yours recently. Hey, you guys have some things in common. You should know each other. I'll leave it to you two from here. And just send that message and let it take on its own life.
Yeah, I enjoy that. In fact, we'll talk more about that. We're running out of time for this month, but let's talk about that. And I'm going to make a note. You have a gentleman, Ron Sucknick, who did things to do on LinkedIn to build your business network. I'm going to make a note of that for our next chat. Okay, we'll double click into some of that.
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Jenny.